There you go, Tiptoe Through the Tulips with me, Mark Bartel from Tone King Amps. And I'm here with the new Imperial MK II, which is going to replace the standard Imperial. And I'm just here doing a little demo video to give you a first look at this new model and to tell you why I think it's such a great little amp. All right, so a little background first of all. The Imperial is the model that really started the company. I designed it over 20 years ago, and we're still making it essentially the same way I originally designed it. And, you know, of course, over the course of those 20 or so years, I've done a lot of different amp designs. I've done a lot of research and a lot of experimentation. And I've really learned a lot about how to make a great sounding guitar amp. And what I wanted to do was take all that knowledge and put it into this model and make it the best Imperial that I could possibly make. And I think I've done it. I think it's a really great sounding little amp. You know, it's just... It's just great. So even though I've done some re-engineering here, I want to assure you that I haven't lost sight of what makes the Imperial great. You know, it's a real authentic vintage kind of sound, and if anything, this Mark II is an even more authentic vintage kind of sound than we had before. But of course, I did apply some of the things I've learned to make it, you know, a very special little amp. So let me go through what I've done with this model. 3 things I want to bring up. First is the new layout using what I call the hand-wired board scheme. Second is the Iron Man II attenuator. And the third is a couple of new features that I've added. Makes it more usable. So let's start off with the hand-wired board layout. Now, I've done a lot of amp design over the last 20 years, and I've done a lot of, you know, like I said, research into how a layout can affect the sound of an amp. And I've settled on this design method that I use now that I'm calling hand-wired board, that is just really ideal in terms of component placement and, you know, wiring length and wiring routing. And I think it really gets the most out of a guitar amp circuit. It makes it sound its best. So you might think, you know, what's the difference? A different layout, you're moving parts around, does it really affect the sound? Well, I'm hoping to show here today that it really does affect the sound, and there are some real tangible sonic benefits you can get from this new layout. Just as a quick description of what I think it does. I think it gives it a really lively sound where the notes just pop out, and it just thickens it up. It gives it a nice kind of weight and authority to even single notes, you know. And on the top end, what I think it does there is, this is, you know, really special. It focuses more on the chime than on that glassy stuff on the top end that I know I find kind of distracting. I mean, that's really what I prefer, and I think is the most musical kind of top end, is just a real lot of like more chime and less of that glassy stuff. Great. Now let's talk about the Iron Man II. Now the Iron Man II is a new attenuator architecture that I came up with that goes a step beyond the original Iron Man because it contains new circuitry that provides compensation for the way the ear perceives sound at low volume and the way the speaker responds at low volume. And I think that's really important in preserving the experience of playing a cranked amp at a really low volume. You know, not only the sound, the feel, the whole experience. So what this compensation circuitry does, I mean, one thing it does, as you attenuate to lower settings, it modifies the EQ curve so that the bottom end retains that fullness and richness in the bottom end, a nice thump on the bottom, and that it brings up a presence peak to compensate for the way your ear hears high frequencies as well. So let me dial in a couple of sounds here, and we'll see if we can demo it. First of all, I'll start off on the rhythm channel. I'll crank it up all the way. Now, this is something that's usually very hard for an attenuator to deal with. You know, the rhythm channel in this amp is kind of like a cranked up Princeton or something, and that to get that to sound right is very difficult. And let's see how we're doing here. Nice. Let's switch over to lead channel. Give you a little something like this. Maybe we could dial it up a little more saturated. All right, now let's talk about those new features I mentioned. The first feature is a compensation switch for the attenuator. It's got a normal and a max setting. And the reason I have those two settings is it really helps you adjust the compensation circuit to match the acoustical environment that you're playing in. You know, if you're in a very reverberant room, you might need a little more present sound, so you might set the compensation to max. Now, if you're at home and like with a wooden floor and a lot of windows, you might set it back to normal so it doesn't sound too harsh. Let's listen to those two different levels. We're on normal right now. Now we'll switch over to max. All right, now let's talk about the last feature that I've added, and I think this is a really neat feature. It's an attenuator bypass that operates, here's how it works. If you have this feature enabled, it will automatically bypass the attenuator when the rhythm channel is selected, but just when the rhythm channel is selected. So that way, as you foot switch between lead and rhythm, the attenuator automatically turns on and off, right? So you can match the level of your distorted sound with your clean sound. Let's set it up here and I'll demonstrate. First, I'll turn that feature on. There's a switch on the back. See that? So on the rhythm channel here, the attenuator is bypassed. So get maximum headroom, and you can click over the lead and and it's kind of a nice volume match there. So that's the Imperial Mark II. I'm Mark Bartel from Tone King Amps. Thanks so much for watching. Bye-bye.